Hello, this is book one for July. I almost said book two for June. The time is going by too quickly, okay? Can't keep up. And it's hot. We're going to have a heat wave sometime in the next few days, or supposedly. We're reading from an essay called Boys to Men. And let's continue. Cops in schools, race and school discipline. Legal socialization is intensified for black boys who attend schools with a significant police presence. Police surveillance strategies such as metal detectors, security cameras, and school resource officers surged considerably after several high-profile school and shootings in the 1990s. School resource officers, SROs, typically defined as certified sworn police officers employed by a local police agency but permanently assigned to work in local schools, are now pervasive in cities with more than 100,000 residents. This growth is attributable to no small measure to federal funding. In 1999, the Office of Community-Oriented Police Services, COPS, initiated the COPS in Schools grant program to facilitate the hiring of SROs in primary and secondary schools. Federal support was renewed by the Obama administration in response to yet another school shooting in Connecticut in 2012. Ironically, SROs are especially common in urban schools and impoverished communities, notwithstanding evidence that most recent mass shootings have occurred in schools and other venues dominated by middle class whites. Many policymakers advocate for the presence of SROs in schools as a strategy for deterring violence and delinquency. Others have loftier goals. So they're using school shootings as a reason to hire these people, although they've been hiring them for at least more than a decade. But they're not hiring them in those areas where they're having mass school shootings. Matter of fact, they're just not hiring them. They want to arm the teachers, not hire guards. Um, they hope that SROs will improve the image of police generally and increase a level of respect that young people have for the law and the role of law enforcement. Notwithstanding these worthy objectives, evidence suggests that the current proliferation of police in schools has done little to improve police-community relations, as SROs remain deeply entrenched in their traditional law enforcement and crime control roles. For those students who are first exposed to police through school resource officers, overly aggressive officers who treat students like criminals have a negative effect on the students' respect for law enforcement and willingness to follow the rules. Students perceive their oppressive interactions with SROs as representative of how all officers will treat them. For students who have already been exposed to police outside of school, SROs have been unable to dislodge the youth's already negative opinions and attitudes about law enforcement. The problem is that police are always police. Those who take the oath are police officers 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. In schools, community policing goals are outweighed by traditional law enforcement objectives, such as increasing the flow of information between schools and police, gathering and exchanging information about gangs, drug dealers, and other allegedly problematic students, referring youth to juvenile courts, investigating suspected criminal activity, making arrests, and reporting misconduct to probation officers. And we've seen where they've arrested 6-year-olds and stuff like that, put them in handcuffs. The visual presence of the police, many of whom patrol schools in uniforms with guns, pepper spray, and batons at their waist, merely reinforces students' image of the police in their traditional roles. In the extreme, schools like those in California's Compton Unified School District recently authorized its police officers to carry military-grade assault rifles, converting schools into correctional facilities or military zones. These images confirm for students that police are there to criminalize their behavior and may alienate students instead of fostering cooperation. At its worst, hostility towards SROs may lead some students to act out further. Historically, most crime committed at schools was not reported to police. More recently, the presence of SROs has increased arrests for low-level offenses, including non-serious assaults typical of an adolescent school fight or disorderly conduct, whereas teachers, parents, and principals once had primary responsibility for the socialization of youth. Many school administrators now eagerly relinquish their disciplinary and rule enforcing responsibilities to police. As expected, school-based arrests disproportionately affect Black boys and contribute significantly to the school-to-prison pipeline. Studies show that schools with higher percentages of Black and Hispanic students are more likely to employ school resource officers or other security personnel. And you could say the schools are not school to prison pipelines. Schools are actually prisons now. So that's what you're sending your children into. Well, now during COVID, everybody's off, and it's going to be a large test in the fall. Will Black parents send their children back into these prisons or not? Thank you for your support, and until next time, take care of your mind, take care of your body, and be safe.